The law of diminishing returns. This is a phenomenon which tells us that if a firm uses more and more of variable inputs in its production process, beyond certain point, it will start deriving less and less of additional output from extra each unit of input used. Let me explain you again using an example. Law of diminishing returns, it tells you that as you increase the amount of variable inputs in the production process, beyond certain point, you will derive less and less of additional output. Let's have a look at the example and you will find it easy, so don't worry. Let's imagine that we hire different number of labor, different number of workers. We operate our corner shop or our takeaway shop, and we workers, and we employ different number of workers, which will allow us to produce different amount of output. And we are going to plot this data. Initially, we don't employ anyone at all, and obviously our output will be equal to 0. So let's just draw this. This is our output level, which is a function of labor, which we use in the production process. And initially, when we don't employ anyone, our output is 0. This is your family business and you work there as well, and initially you start working on your own. So you produce pizzas and you sell these pizzas to customers, and you do everything. You make these pizzas, you serve customers, you do the accounts, you clean everything. So you work on your own. This allows you to produce, let's say, 5 pizzas per hour. In other words, when your amount of workers in the production process is 1, this allows you to produce 5 units of output. Probably this is the only graph where quantity is located along vertical axis, because it will illustrate our production function. I mentioned in the beginning of the lecture that we will come back to this. So this is it, production function. It shows the relationship between quantity produced and the amount of factors in production in the short run. It's a short run production function. It's a function of the variable input. Why is it? Because capital is fixed. Capital is fixed. It's set at a certain level. We use, let's say, 1 microwave and 1 oven, and our output doesn't vary because of different numbers of microwaves. It's given. So we can only increase output if we vary the amount of workers. So you are not coping with this amount of work. In other words, your production is not particularly effective and your revenue is not enough to cover your rents. That's why you ask your brother to help you. And now you work together. The number of workers is now equal to 2. You are able to specialize. You are helping each other. For example, when one of you cooks these pizzas, another one will serve customers, which speeds up the whole process. And together, you are able to produce, let's say, 12 pizzas. This increases your output level. And we can then plot a second point on our graph. This is your second production level. 12 pizzas is better than nothing, but it's still not enough. So you ask your sister to join you, and when 3 of you work together, your sister helps you with accounts, for example. So she will deal with all monetary issues. She will place orders, pay suppliers, collect money from customers, etc. And when you work together, you will be able to produce, let's say, 18 pizzas. For 3 workers, your amount of output is 18. Then your father decides to join you. Maybe he will help to greet customers, or he will run promotional campaign. This will help, but generally you are quite busy already. The shop is very small. You will be interfering with each other. So his advertising campaign will probably help you a little bit to attract more customers, but you are simply unable to serve more customers in your small shop. And as a result, your output level will increase slightly up to, let's say, 20 units. So when there are 4 staff members in the production process, your output goes up to 20. Then your mom decides to help you as well, because the whole family is working in a shop. That's why she feels obliged to help out too. And she joins you as well to free up some of your time. And she does the cleaning, for example, and closes the shop in the evening and opens in the morning and makes sure that everything looks nice and clean and so on. But because this doesn't allow you to produce any more pizzas, your output remains unchanged. So when number of staff is equal to 5, your output remains unchanged. So strictly speaking, if you draw a curve through these points, this curve will show you your production function. It shows how output level changes when you change the amount of variable input in the production process. This is exactly what I've mentioned in the definition of the law of diminishing returns. Have a look. The firm increases the amount of variable input in the production process. Variable inputs, labor, amount of labor goes up. And when this happens, beyond certain point, you will derive less and less of additional output. The key here is the additional output. So let's calculate what additional output each of you will generate. So the first person, additional output produced. The first person, obviously, when the first of you joins the production process, it will generate 5 units of output. Your output will go up from 0 to 5. The first person generates this amount. When the second person joins the production process, output goes up from 5 to 12. So this will be an additional output generated by the second person. So you specialize, you benefit from specialization, production becomes more effective, and as a result, second person generates 7 units. This is an additional output. When your sister joins you, your output goes up from 12 to 18. So she generates 6 units only, which is less than before. When your father joins, he will be able to add 2 units to the production process, which is even less. The difference between 18 and 20 is 2 units. So 2 units rather than 6, rather than 7, so it's worse. And when your mom joins, there will be no additional output generated at all. In other words, beyond certain point, each additional worker will generate less and less of additional output. Number of additional units will start to decrease somewhere beyond this point. Up to this point, output accelerated, the growth of output accelerated. Beyond this point, the rate of growth slows down. This is the point where the law of diminishing returns kicks in. Diminishing returns. Your output goes up, but at a slower rate. The more you add, the less effective these additional units will become. What does this mean? All this implies that the firm cannot increase the production infinitely simply by employing more workers. When your mom joined you, it didn't really help to increase production. And if you ask your other siblings, like a 3-year-old, to join you, it will be even worse because production will actually go down. It will start declining. Or even if you hire some adults, not from your household, this won't help as well because there is no work for them to do. You are limited by the amount which your ovens and microwaves can produce because you simply cannot pack more pizzas per this oven. If you want to produce more output, you will need to hire additional machines or purchase additional equipment. You will need more microwaves. In other words, if you want to expand your production level, you will need to expand its capital at some stage. So, strictly speaking, what is important, what you need to remember is that in the short run, your production, your output level is a function of amount of workers. It depends on the amount of variable factor in the production process. Your capital is fixed and you will reach some point, some limit, some maximum capacity beyond which you won't be able to expand your production. If you want to go beyond this output level, you will need to vary the amount of capital. In other words, the law of diminishing returns is a short-run phenomenon. In the long run, you can vary your capital. You are not limited by this. And as a result, you will be able to expand production indefinitely by increasing both labor and capital. You can double, you can triple, you can maximize your production capacities by building more and more shops and by installing additional production lines. And you will be able to avoid the effect of diminishing returns. So this is a short-run phenomenon which tells you that the more variable factor, the more staff you employ, usually staff is the variable factor amount of labor, there will be certain point beyond which you will be able to generate less and less of additional output.